She said, "You promised to marry me when we were kids." He asked, "Does it still matter?" Paige Dawson stood in the lobby of the Paramount Hotel in downtown Seattle, clutching the invitation to her 10-year high school reunion with sweaty palms. She'd almost decided not to come. Reunions were awkward at best, torturous at worst. But curiosity had won out, along with the nagging feeling that she needed closure on a chapter of her life she'd never properly finished. The ballroom was already packed with former classmates. Paige spotted familiar faces, some barely changed, others completely transformed. There was Meadow Sullivan, her former cheerleading captain, showing off photos of her 3 kids. Bennett Roth, the class president, now apparently a successful real estate developer. And standing by the bar, laughing at something someone said, was Isaiah Crawford. Paige's heart stopped. She'd known he might be here. His name had been on the RSVP list when she'd checked online obsessively for weeks before committing to attend. But seeing him in person after 10 years, it hit differently than she'd expected. Isaiah had changed. The gangly teenager she'd known had filled out into a man, tall, confident, with the same warm brown eyes, but with a maturity that hadn't been there before. He wore a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, and when he laughed, everyone around him seemed drawn to the sound. Paige was debating whether to approach him when their eyes met across the room. Recognition flashed across Isaiah's face, followed by something more complicated. Surprise? Pleasure? Regret? She couldn't tell. He excused himself from his group and crossed the ballroom with deliberate steps. Paige's mouth went dry as he approached. Paige Dawson. His voice was deeper than she remembered, but still distinctly Isaiah. "I wondered if you'd come." "Isaiah, hi. You look great." "So do you." His eyes swept over her, taking in the emerald dress she'd chosen after 3 days of deliberation, her blonde hair styled in loose waves. "How have you been? What are you doing these days?" "I'm a social worker. In Portland." "You?" "Software engineer. I actually moved back to Seattle last year, working at a tech startup downtown." The conversation was painfully polite, completely lacking the easy intimacy they'd once shared. They were strangers making small talk, and it broke Paige's heart a little. "Can we?" Paige gestured toward a quieter corner. "Can we talk? Actually talk?" Isaiah hesitated, and Paige saw him glance toward a striking black woman across the room who was watching them with interest. "Yeah, let's talk." They found a private alcove, away from the noise. Up close, Paige could see the ways time had marked Isaiah. A small scar above his left eye, laugh lines that suggested he smiled often, a weariness in his expression that spoke of experiences she knew nothing about. 10 years, Paige said, because someone had to start. "It's been 10 years since we last spoke. Since graduation. Since you..." Isaiah stopped, then decided to be direct. "Since you told me we couldn't be together anymore because your parents disapproved." The words hung between them like an accusation. Paige felt shame wash over her, as fresh and painful as it had been a decade ago. "I was 18 and scared, Isaiah. My parents threatened to cut me off completely, to disown me if I kept seeing you. I didn't know what to do. You could have chosen me, chosen us, but you didn't. I know, and I've regretted it every single day since." Isaiah looked at her sharply. "Have you? Because you seem to have done fine. Social worker in Portland, probably married with the white picket fence your parents always wanted for you. I'm not married, never even got close. And my relationship with my parents is complicated. I haven't spoken to my father in 3 years. What happened? I finally grew a spine. Realized that anyone who tried to control who I love doesn't deserve a place in my life. Too late for us, but at least I learned the lesson." Isaiah was quiet, processing this information. "Why tell me this now? After 10 years? Paige took a deep breath. "Because when we were kids, 12 years old, sitting in your treehouse after your mom made us those chocolate chip cookies, you promised me something, and I promised you back. Do you remember?" Isaiah's expression shifted, memories flooding back. "I remember. You said, 'Paige Dawson, when we grow up, I'm going to marry you. We'll have a house with a big yard and 3 dogs, and we'll be happy forever.' And I said, 'I promise I'll marry you, Isaiah Crawford, even if the whole world says we shouldn't. Even if everyone tries to stop us, I'll choose you.' We were 12, Paige. Kids making promises they didn't understand. But we loved each other. Even then we loved each other. And when we were 16, 17, That was real too. What we had was real. It was real until you let your parents' racism destroy it. Isaiah's voice was hard now, the wound still raw despite a decade of time. Do you know what that did to me? Having the girl I'd loved since we were kids, tell me that her parents' opinion mattered more than what we had. I was wrong. You told me you loved me. You let me believe we'd figure it out, that we'd find a way. And then one day you just ended it. Said your parents would never accept you dating a black guy, that it was too hard, that maybe we should just be realistic about our differences. Paige was crying now, not caring who saw. I know. I was a coward. I let them make me believe that love wasn't enough, that their social circle and their approval mattered more than my own happiness. And Isaiah, I was wrong. So completely, devastatingly wrong. So why are you here? Why bring up promises we made as kids? Paige met his eyes, her voice steady despite the tears. Because I never stopped loving you. Because for 10 years I've measured every man against you and found them all wanting. Because I need to know, does that childhood promise still matter? Is there any chance, any possibility that we could try again? Isaiah stared at her, emotions warring across his face. Paige. Isaiah, there you are. The striking woman from earlier appeared, sliding her arm through his possessively. I've been looking for you. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Paige. This is Simone Banks, my girlfriend. Simone Paige Dawson. We went to high school together. The word girlfriend hit Paige like a physical blow. Of course he had a girlfriend. Of course he'd moved on. What had she expected? Nice to meet you, Paige managed, her voice barely above a whisper. You too. Isaiah's told me so much about his high school friends. Simone smiled warmly, completely unaware of the tension. Babe, they're about to do the award ceremony. Best dressed, most likely to succeed. All that silly stuff. I'll be right there. Isaiah gently disentangled himself. Give me 1 minute. After Simone left, Isaiah turned back to Paige. I'm sorry. I should have mentioned. No, it's fine. It's been 10 years. Of course you moved on. I'm happy for you, Isaiah. Really. Paige, you should go. Simone's waiting. Paige forced a smile. It was good seeing you. Take care of yourself. She walked away before he could respond. Before she completely broke down in front of him. She made it to her car, got 3 blocks away, and then pulled over to cry, deep, wrenching sobs that felt like they were tearing her apart from the inside. She'd been too late. That childhood promise, that teenage love, it didn't matter anymore. Isaiah had moved on, found someone new, and Paige had no one to blame but herself. Paige couldn't stop thinking about the reunion, about seeing Isaiah after so many years. About the girlfriend who seemed perfect for him, about the childhood promise that apparently didn't matter anymore. Her best friend Lennox came over 3 days later, finding Paige still in pajamas, eating ice cream directly from the container while scrolling through old photos on her phone. Okay, that's it. I'm staging an intervention. Lennox confiscated the ice cream. You've been moping since the reunion. Tell me what happened. I saw Isaiah. Isaiah? Your high school boyfriend, Isaiah? And I told him I still loved him. And he has a girlfriend. A gorgeous, successful girlfriend who's probably perfect for him. Lennox sat down, pulling Paige into a hug. I'm sorry. But Paige, it's been 10 years. What did you expect? I don't know. Some part of me hoped that maybe he'd been waiting. That maybe our connection was so special he couldn't move on either. How stupid is that? It's not stupid. It's romantic. But sweetie, you broke his heart. You chose your racist parents over him. Why would he wait for someone who hurt him like that? Because we promised each other. When we were kids, we promised we'd get married someday. I thought maybe that promise still meant something. Lennox looked at her friend with sympathy. Paige, you were 12 years old. Kids make promises all the time. It doesn't mean they're binding, but it felt binding. It felt real. Lennox, I've never loved anyone the way I loved Isaiah, and I threw it away because I was scared of my parents' disapproval. So what are you going to do now? Nothing. He's moved on. He's happy. I need to accept that and move on too. But moving on proved impossible. Paige found herself thinking about Isaiah constantly, remembering their childhood together, their teenage relationship, the moment everything fell apart. Hello, my Stop Racism family. Thank you for tuning in today. Before we dive deeper into this beautiful love story, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments below. Also, I'd love to know your thoughts. What did you think of the story so far? Do you believe love can truly conquer prejudice? Let us know in the comments. We love reading them. And trust me, your words motivate us to keep making these videos. Let's make this video reach at least 50 comments. Your support means the world to us, and it drives us to create even more meaningful content for you. So don't forget to comment, share, and keep spreading love. The flashback started that week. Paige would be at work, counseling a family in crisis, and suddenly she'd remember. She was 7 years old, new to the neighborhood. Her family had just moved to Seattle from California, and she didn't know anyone. She'd been sitting alone at the park when a black boy about her age approached. "Hi, I'm Isaiah. Want to play on the swings?" "I'm Paige." "Okay." They'd played for hours that day. Swings, slides, the jungle gym. Isaiah had pushed her higher on the swings than anyone ever had, and when she'd gotten scared, he'd held the swing steady and said, "I've got you. I won't let you fall." That had been the beginning of everything. Another memory surfaced while Paige was grocery shopping. They were 12, in Isaiah's treehouse that his father Lawrence had built in their backyard. Isaiah's mother Yolanda had sent up a plate of cookies, and they'd been eating them while planning their futures. "When I grow up," Isaiah had said seriously, "I'm going to be an astronaut, or a scientist, or maybe a teacher like my dad. I'm going to be a doctor," Paige had declared, "and save people's lives. That's cool. We should get married when we grow up. Then we can have our own house and eat cookies whenever we want." Paige had laughed, but her 12-year-old heart had beaten faster. "Okay, I promise I'll marry you, Isaiah Crawford." "I promise too. You're going to be Paige Crawford, and we'll be happy forever." They'd shaken on it solemnly, their childhood. Promise feeling more real than anything else in their young lives. The memories kept coming. Paige remembered high school, how their childhood friendship had evolved into something deeper, how Isaiah had kissed her for the first time behind the bleachers after a football game, how they'd spent hours talking about everything and nothing, how easy it had been to be together. And then, the ugly memories, her mother Candace discovering them making out in Paige's room, the subsequent screaming match, her father Robert's cold disapproval, the ultimatum, break up with Isaiah or face complete financial and familial abandonment. "He's black, Paige. You're white. People like us don't mix with people like them. Isaiah's family is respectable. His father's a high school principal. His mother's a nurse. I don't care if his father's the president. You're not dating him. End it or we're done supporting you. No college fund, no car, no place in this family." Paige had been 18 and terrified. She'd chosen her parents' approval over her own heart, and she'd regretted it every day since. Isaiah couldn't stop thinking about seeing Paige at the reunion. For 10 years, he'd told himself he was over her. He'd moved on, dated other people, built a successful career, but seeing her again had brought everything flooding back. The love, the hurt, the betrayal. "You've been distracted all week," Simone observed over dinner that Friday. "Is everything okay?" "Yeah, just work stuff. This new project is demanding." "Is this about that girl from the reunion, Paige?" Isaiah looked up sharply. "What makes you ask that?" "The way you looked at her, the way she looked at you. There was history there. Significant history. We dated in high school. It ended badly. That's all." "That's not all." Simone set down her fork. "Isaiah, I need you to be honest with me. Are you still in love with her?" "No, I'm with you. We're good together." "We are good together, but we're not great together, and you know it. There's always been something, someone you've been holding back for, and I think that someone is Paige." "Simone, I'm not angry. I'm actually relieved." "Isaiah, you're wonderful, but I've always felt like I was competing with a ghost, with some perfect memory you couldn't let go of. Now I understand why. I'm sorry. You deserve better than that." "I do, and so do you. Isaiah, if you still have feelings for her, if there's unfinished business between you, deal with it. Don't spend the rest of your life wondering, what if?" They broke up that night, amicably and with mutual respect. Simone was right. They'd been good together, but not great. And Isaiah had been comparing every woman to Paige for a decade, finding them all wanting. The next day, Isaiah drove to his parents' house in the same neighborhood where he'd grown up. The tree house was still there, weathered but standing. His father, Lawrence, answered the door, pulling him into a warm hug. "Isaiah, we weren't expecting you. Come in, your mother's making her famous pot roast." Yolanda Crawford emerged from the kitchen, her smile bright. "My baby, sit. You look tired. Are you eating enough? Working too much?" "I'm fine, Ma. I actually wanted to talk to you both about something." Over dinner, Isaiah explained about the reunion, seeing Paige again, breaking up with Simone. His parents listened without judgment, exchanging meaningful looks. "So, Paige Dawson is back in your life?" Lawrence said thoughtfully. "How do you feel about that?" "Confused, angry. I thought I was over her, but seeing her, all those feelings came rushing back. And she said something that's been haunting me. She reminded me of the promise we made when we were kids. The marriage promise?" Yolanda smiled. "I remember you two in that treehouse, so serious about your plans. It was adorable. She wants to know if it still matters. If that childhood promise means anything now." "Does it?" Lawrence asked. "To you? I don't know. I loved her, Dad. She was my first love, my best friend. And she chose her parents' racism over me. She let them control her, let their prejudice destroy what we had. How do I forgive that? The same way we forgive anything, by understanding that people make mistakes, especially when they're young and scared." Yolanda reached across the table to squeeze his hand. "Isaiah, Paige was 18. Her parents threatened everything she'd ever known. That's terrifying at any age, but especially for a teenager who'd been dependent on them her whole life. But she hurt me. She made me feel like I wasn't worth fighting for." "I know, baby, and that pain is valid. But you need to ask yourself, is that 18-year-old girl the same person you saw at the reunion? Has she grown? Changed? Or is she still the person who chose comfort over courage?" Isaiah thought about Paige's words, about how she'd cut contact with her father, about the regret in her eyes, about the way she'd looked at him, like he was everything she'd lost and couldn't get back. "I don't know who she is now. We barely talked before Simone showed up." "Then maybe you should find out," Lawrence suggested. "You've spent 10 years wondering what if. Don't spend another 10 doing the same thing. Talk to her. Really talk. Figure out if that childhood promise still matters, to both of you." Isaiah texted Paige the next morning. "Can we talk? Coffee sometime this week?" Paige's response came back within minutes. "Yes, anytime. Just name the place." They met at a small coffee shop in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood, neutral territory where they were unlikely to run into anyone they knew. Paige arrived first, ordering a latte and claiming a corner table. She was nervous, her hands shaking slightly as she waited. Isaiah walked in exactly on time, looking both confident and uncertain. He ordered black coffee and joined her at the table. "Thanks for meeting." "Me?" he said. "Thanks for asking. I wasn't sure. After the reunion, after meeting Simone, I thought you'd never want to see me again. Simone and I broke up. Turns out you can't build a relationship when you're still hung up on someone else." Paige's heart leapt, but she tried to keep her expression neutral. "I'm sorry. That must be hard." It was honest. She deserved someone who could give her everything, and I couldn't. Because you're right. I've been measuring everyone against what we had, and no one's measured up. "Isaiah, let me finish. Paige, you hurt me. When you ended things because your parents didn't approve, when you chose their racism over our relationship, it broke something in me. I spent years angry, years trying to move past it, and I thought I had. But seeing you again made me realize I've just been running from feelings I never properly dealt with. I'm so sorry. If I could go back and change that decision. But you can't. None of us can change the past. So the question is, what do we do now? You asked if that childhood promise still matters, if there's a chance for us. Does it matter, I mean?" Isaiah was quiet for a long moment, stirring his coffee even though he took it black. "I don't know. Part of me wants to say no, that we were kids. The promises made at 12 years old don't count. But Paige, we weren't just kids making up stories. We loved each other. From 7 years old playing on swings to 17 making plans for college, we had something real. We did. And I destroyed it. You made a choice I don't agree with, a choice that hurt both of us. But you were 18 and scared, and your parents were wielding every weapon they had to control you. I'm not saying I forgive you. I don't know if I can yet. But I'm starting to understand why you made that choice. Paige wiped away tears. I've spent 10 years regretting it. 10 years wishing I'd been braver, stronger, more willing to stand up to them. And I can't get that time back, can't undo the pain I caused. But Isaiah, I meant what I said at the reunion. I never stopped loving you. Every relationship I've tried, every man I've dated, none of them were you. And I know that's not fair to say. I know you've moved on, but I needed you to know. I haven't moved on. Not really. I just got better at pretending. They sat in silence, the weight of 10 years hanging between them. Finally, Isaiah reached across the table, taking Paige's hand. The touch was electric, familiar and new simultaneously. I want to try again. But Paige, I need to know you're different. That you won't run the first time things get hard or people disapprove, because interracial relationships still face prejudice. It's better than it was, but it's still there. Can you handle that now? The stares, the comments, the family members who'll have opinions? Yes, I've spent 3 years estranged from my father, because he can't accept that I won't live by his racist rules. My mother and I talk occasionally, but it's strained because she won't stand up to him. I lost my family over this, over choosing to live by my own values instead of theirs. I can handle strangers' opinions. What about your job? Your friends? Your social circle? My best friend Lennox is black. Half my colleagues at work are people of color. And my social circle, if they have a problem with us being together, then they're not people I want in my life anyway. Isaiah, I'm not 18 anymore. I'm not afraid of my parents or their approval. I'm only afraid of losing you again. You lost me once because you let fear control you. If we do this, if we try again, you can't let fear win. Not your parents' fears, not society's prejudices, not even your own doubts. We face it together, or we don't do this at all. Together, I promise. And Isaiah, that childhood promise, the one we made in your treehouse, I meant it then, and I mean it now. I want to marry you. Maybe not tomorrow or next year, but someday. I want to be Paige Crawford, if you'll have me. Isaiah smiled, the first genuine smile since they'd reunited. We're starting over, taking it slow, dating like normal people, figuring out if we still fit after all these years. But Paige, yeah, I still want that treehouse promise too. Their first official date was deliberately simple. Dinner at a Thai restaurant, followed by a walk along the waterfront. No pressure, no expectations beyond getting to know each other again. Tell me about your life, Paige said as they walked. What happened after high school? Where did you go to college? University of Washington. Studied computer science. My father wanted me to go into education like him, but I'd always loved programming. After graduation, I worked at Microsoft for 5 years, then joined a startup that's doing really well. We develop educational software for underserved communities. That sounds meaningful. Combining your dad's passion for education with your technical skills. It is. What about you? You said you're a social worker? Yeah. I went to Portland State, got my MSW. I work with foster families and at-risk youth. It's hard, emotionally exhausting sometimes, but it matters. These kids need someone in their corner. That's the Paige I remember, always wanting to help people. They talked about their lives over the past decade. Isaiah's brief engagement to a woman named Keisha that had ended when she took a job overseas. Paige's series of failed relationships with men who'd all been safe, but ultimately unfulfilling. They talked about mutual friends from high school, Bennett's real estate success, Meadows' domestic life, others who'd scattered across the country pursuing dreams. Do you remember Logan Hayes? Isaiah asked. The guy who used to bully me freshman year? I remember. He was awful to you. Called you terrible names, made racist comments. I ran into him a few years ago. He apologized. Said he'd been raised by a racist father and had spent years unlearning that hatred. He's married to a black woman now, has biracial kids. People can change. Is that why you're giving me a chance? Because you believe people can change? Partly, but also because I never stopped loving you either. Even when I was angry, even when I told myself I'd moved on, you were always there. That treehouse promise meant something. Their second date was more adventurous, hiking in the Cascade Mountains. Isaiah packed sandwiches and fruit, and they spent the day climbing trails, talking, and slowly rediscovering each other. You're more confident now, Paige observed as they rested at a scenic overlook. In high school, you were always a bit shy. Now you've grown into yourself. The Marines will do that. I enlisted for 2 years after college, before Microsoft. Figured out who I was, what I was capable of. It changed me. I didn't know you'd been in the military. There's a lot we don't know about each other anymore. That's what this is. Relearning who we've become. I like who you've become. You're still the sweet, kind Isaiah I fell in love with. But now there's strength there. Confidence. You know your worth. I had to learn it. After you broke up with me, I spent a long time thinking I wasn't good enough. That maybe your parents were right. That I couldn't offer you the life you deserved. The Marines taught me that was bullshit. I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be. You were always good enough, Isaiah. More than good enough. I was just too stupid and scared to see it. Over the next 2 months, they dated consistently. Slow dinners, long walks, movie nights at Isaiah's apartment. They introduced each other to their friend groups. Paige meeting Isaiah's childhood friends Malik and Trevor. Isaiah meeting Lennox and Paige's co-worker Devin. He's good for you, Lennox observed after meeting Isaiah. You're happier than I've seen you in years. He is good for me. He always has been. I just wasn't ready to appreciate it before. But not everyone was supportive. Paige's mother Candace called after hearing through the social grapevine that Paige was dating someone. Please tell me you're not back with that Isaiah boy, Candace said, her voice tight with disapproval. His name is Isaiah Crawford. And yes, we're dating again. Mom, I'm 28 years old. You don't get a vote in my relationships anymore. Paige, you know how your father feels. I know Dad's a racist, and I know you enable him. But Mom, I don't care. I love Isaiah. I've always loved him, and I'm not giving him up again to please people who think skin color matters more than character. You're making a mistake. People will talk. Your father's business associates, our social circle. Let them talk. I'm done living my life according to other people's prejudices. Candace hung up, and Paige felt both liberated and sad. She was losing her parents again, but this time she was choosing love over fear. 3 months into their renewed relationship, Isaiah took Paige to dinner at his parents' house. She was terrified. What if they hate me? What if they can't forgive me for breaking your heart? My parents aren't like that. They'll give you a chance. Yolanda and Lawrence welcomed Paige warmly, though Paige could see the wariness in their eyes. Isaiah's younger sister Keisha was also there, along with her husband Jamal and their baby daughter. So you're the famous Paige, Keisha said, her tone neutral. Isaiah talked about you constantly after you broke up, for years. Keisha, Isaiah warned. What? She should know. She should know what her choice did to you. I know, Paige said quietly, and I'm sorrier than I can express. I was 18 and scared, and I made a terrible decision that hurt Isaiah and hurt me too. I can't change the past, but I'm trying to do better now. Over dinner, Paige slowly won them over. She talked about her work with foster families, her estrangement from her own father, her growth over the past decade. She was honest about her mistakes, vulnerable about her regrets. I loved your son when I was 7 years old, Paige told Yolanda and Lawrence as they sat on the porch after dinner. And I love him now. I know I don't deserve a second chance, but I'm grateful for one. I promise I won't waste it. We don't blame you for your parents' prejudices, Lawrence said carefully, but we do need to know you're strong enough now to face opposition. Because it will come, Paige, from strangers, maybe from friends, possibly even from our community. Not everyone believes interracial relationships are appropriate. I'm prepared for that. I've already lost my father over this, over refusing to live by his racist standards. I can handle opposition from strangers. What about children? Yolanda asked. If you and Isaiah stay together, if you get married someday, have you thought about raising biracial children, the challenges they'll face? I have. I work with kids every day, including biracial kids dealing with identity issues and racism. It won't be easy, but I believe love and honest communication can help children navigate those challenges. And Isaiah and we'd face it together. After Paige left, Keisha turned to her brother. She's different, stronger than she was in high school. I know. Do you trust her? Really trust that she won't run again? I'm learning to. She's proved herself so far, standing up to her parents, being open about the relationship, facing difficult questions. I think she means it this time. I hope so. Because Isaiah, if she breaks your heart again, I'm going to have words with her. Strong words. Isaiah laughed. I appreciate the protective sister routine, but I can handle this. How's this story hitting you so far? Tell us in the comments. If you're loving it, type 1. If not, type 0. We want to know what you think. The opposition Lawrence had warned about came in unexpected ways. At a company dinner for Isaiah's startup, one of the investors made a comment about Isaiah's pretty blonde girlfriend that dripped with racial stereotypes. "You always did have good taste in women," the investor, a man named Garrett, said with a wink. "Though I'm surprised, usually you people stick to your own kind." Paige felt Isaiah tense beside her. Before he could respond, she jumped in. "You people? What exactly do you mean by that, Garrett?" "Oh, just making conversation." "No, I'd like you to clarify, because it sounded a lot like you were making assumptions based on Isaiah's race. And I'd hate to think that a respected investor in this company harbors racist attitudes toward one of the lead developers." Garrett backpedaled, claiming he'd been misunderstood, but the damage was done. Later, Isaiah's boss Dante pulled them aside. "Thank you for calling that out. Garrett's been a problem before, but no one's had the guts to confront him directly. We need more of that." "Is this what you face?" Paige asked Isaiah later. "These kinds of comments all the time?" "Not all the time, but often enough. Microaggressions, assumptions, people who think they're complimenting me by calling me articulate or well-spoken, like they're surprised a black man can use complete sentences. How do you stand it? You get used to it. You learn to pick your battles, decide what's worth confronting and what you need to let go for your own sanity." Paige also faced opposition. Her mother's friends made pointed comments at charity events. Former classmates questioned her choices. And one evening, while having dinner with Isaiah at an upscale restaurant, an older white couple at the next table made loud comments about these mixed couples and how it was unnatural. "Excuse me." Paige stood up, approaching their table. "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation, and I want you to know that your racist opinions are not only wrong, but incredibly rude to voice in public. That man you're talking about, he's my boyfriend. He's a better person than either of you will ever be, and I'd appreciate it if you'd keep your bigotry to yourselves." The couple sputtered. The restaurant manager rushed over, and Isaiah pulled Paige away before things escalated further. "You didn't have to do that," Isaiah said as they left. "Yes, I did. I'm not letting anyone disrespect you. Not anymore. It's just going to keep happening, Paige. People's prejudices don't go away just because we call them out. Maybe not. But I won't sit silently while people attack the man I love. I won't be complicit in racism, even passive racism." Isaiah pulled her close. "You've changed so much. The girl who chose her parents' approval over me wouldn't have said anything to that couple. That girl doesn't exist anymore. I killed her the day I realized letting you go was the biggest mistake of my life." 6 months after reconnecting, Isaiah took Paige back to their childhood neighborhood. They walked past her old house, his old house, and finally to the park, where they'd first met at 7 years old. "Remember this place?" Isaiah asked. "Of course. This is where it all started. You pushed me on the swings and said I wouldn't let you fall. Paige, I meant that then, and I mean it now. I will never let you fall. Not if I can help it." Isaiah led her to the treehouse in his parents' backyard. It had been reinforced and maintained over the years, still solid enough to hold 2 adults. "Oh my God," Paige laughed. "Your parents still have this? Dad won't tear it down. Says it's a monument to our friendship. Come on, let's go up." They climbed into the treehouse, and Paige noticed immediately that it had been decorated. Fairy lights strung along the walls, photos of them as children and teenagers, and in the center, a small table with 2 plates of chocolate chip cookies. "Isaiah, when we were 12 years old, we sat in this treehouse and made a promise. You said you'd marry me even if the whole world said we shouldn't. I said I'd make you happy forever. And Paige, we've spent 10 years apart. 10 years trying to move on. 10 years proving that no one else could fill the space we left in each other's hearts." Isaiah got down on one knee, pulling out a ring box. "That childhood promise matters, Paige. It always mattered. You're the only woman I've ever wanted to marry, the only future I've ever been able to imagine clearly. So I'm asking now, as adults who've made mistakes and learned from them, Paige Dawson, will you marry me?" Will you be Paige Crawford like we promised all those years ago? Paige was sobbing, nodding frantically. Yes, God, yes. Isaiah, I've wanted this since I was 12 years old. Yes, the ring was perfect. A simple diamond surrounded by smaller stones in a vintage setting. Isaiah slipped it on her finger, and they kissed in the treehouse where they'd first dreamed about their future. I love you, Paige said. I've loved you since I was 7 years old, and I'll love you for the rest of my life. I love you too. Always have. Always will. They ate cookies and planned their future. A small wedding, a house with a big yard, and 3 dogs they'd dreamed about. Children someday. Everything they'd promised each other as kids, finally becoming real. Do you think the younger us would be happy? Paige asked. If they could see us now. I think 12-year-old Isaiah would be thrilled that he actually got to marry Paige Dawson. And I think 12-year-old Paige would be proud of the strong woman she grew into. Even though that growth took a decade and a lot of mistakes, especially because of that. We're not the same people who broke up at 18. We're better, stronger, more sure of ourselves, more willing to fight for what matters. This version of us is ready. For marriage in a way 18-year-old us never was. The wedding was held at the community center in their childhood neighborhood, with decorations blending both families' traditions. Isaiah's father presided over the ceremony, and Paige's mother was there, without Robert, who'd refused to attend. I'm proud of you, Candace whispered to Paige before the ceremony. You chose love over fear. I should have done the same years ago. I'm sorry I didn't stand up to your father back then. You're here now. That's what matters. Isaiah's sister Keisha was maid of honor, and his friend Malik was best man. The ceremony was full of joy and laughter, with Isaiah's nephew reading the story of their childhood promise during the vows. 12-year-old Paige promised to marry 12-year-old Isaiah, the nephew read. She said even if the whole world said they shouldn't, she'd choose him. And today, she's keeping that promise. I do choose you, Paige said during her vows, tears streaming. I chose you when we were kids. I failed to choose you when we were teenagers. But Isaiah, I'm choosing you now and every day for the rest of our lives. You're my best friend, my soulmate, the love of my life. And I promise to never let fear or prejudice or other people's opinions come between us again. I choose you too, Isaiah said. Through every challenge, every moment of opposition, every obstacle we'll face, I choose you. You're my childhood promise, my teenage heartbreak, and my adult joy all wrapped together. And Paige Crawford, because you're officially Paige Crawford now, I can't wait to spend forever with you. They kissed as husband and wife to thunderous applause. At the reception, they danced to a jazz standard, surrounded by everyone who'd supported them. Was it worth it? Isaiah whispered. All the pain, all the years apart, all the obstacles. Every second, because it led us here, to this moment, to this life, to this future we're building together. That childhood promise still matters. It always mattered. We just had to grow into people worthy of keeping it. As they swayed to the music, Paige caught sight of the framed photo Isaiah's parents had given them as a wedding gift. 2 12-year-olds sitting in a treehouse, grinning at the camera, holding hands and dreaming about the future. We did it, she whispered. We kept our promise. We did, and we're going to keep it for the rest of our lives. Paige Crawford stood in the backyard of their new house, watching Isaiah play with their 2-year-old daughter, Amara, and the 3 dogs they'd adopted last year. The house had the big yard they'd dreamed about, and Amara was already declaring she'd build her own treehouse someday. Mama, come play, Amara called, her curly blonde hair bouncing as she ran. Paige joined them, and Isaiah pulled her close, kissing her forehead. Happy? Impossibly happy. You? Living the dream. Our dream. The one we made in that treehouse all those years ago. Do you think Amara will make promises with some childhood friend someday? Probably. And I hope she's brave enough to keep them, even when it's hard. They'd faced challenges. Paige's father still refused contact, and they still encountered occasional racism. But they'd built a life filled with love, surrounded by friends and family who supported them. And most importantly, they'd kept the promise 2 12-year-olds had made in a treehouse, to choose each other, to love each other, to build a life together. She said, "You promised to marry me when we were kids," Isaiah recited, pulling Paige close. And he asked, Does it still matter? Paige continued. It always mattered, they said together, laughing. It always will. Because some promises transcend time, prejudice, and circumstance. Some promises are made with such innocent sincerity that they echo through decades, waiting for the people who made them to grow into versions of themselves capable of keeping them. And sometimes, against all odds, childhood sweethearts find their way back to each other, not as the same people who made those promises, but as better versions, stronger, wiser, more willing to fight for love that was worth everything. Every tear, every year apart, every obstacle overcome. That childhood promise in the treehouse, it turned out it still mattered very much indeed.